doing today?
Doing well, buddy, and excited to have you on as always, and jumping into some good recruiting chatter. Let's get started with some guys that you've got some updates on. Let's start with Javon Baker.
Yeah, Javon Baker, Alabama commitment, long-time Alabama commitment. Did not sign in December. He's going to take some visits this month. He's going to start this weekend in Tuscaloosa. He's going to take his first official visit. Coming back over to Alabama, spend some time with the coaches, and you'll kind of see where things are at with him. And he currently has a visit set up for Arkansas next weekend, and those may actually be his only two visits. I don't know if he's going to have enough time to go anywhere else on that final weekend before signing day, and I think those are going to be the only two visits for him. But we'll probably know a little bit more about Javon's situation after this weekend. Kind of see where he's at. But I think the biggest thing with him is just kind of getting the academics in order. And I don't think it was really a situation where he was wanting to take all of his official visits or anything like that. I think it was just you got to get everything taken care of in the classroom, not just out on the field.
Yeah, hopefully he'll handle all of that. All right, a new name. Not a new name. Obviously, he's a highly rated player, but I haven't heard Alabama's name mentioned very often with Cedric Van Pran, the center out of New Orleans that's committed to Georgia, one of the top offensive line prospects in the country. What's going on with him?
Yeah, so Cedric Van Pran is as you mentioned, one of the top offensive line players in the country. He's a member of the Rivals 100, rated as a center. I think he could play just about any position on the offensive line. Very elite player. When Sam Pittman left Georgia, kind of opened up the door for other schools to recruit him and try to get him on campus for an official visit, and especially with him being an out-of-state case from Louisiana, from New Orleans. So you knew that the door would be a little bit more open for him than maybe an offensive lineman from the state of Georgia who was committed to Georgia, and he's certainly going to be taking some visits. And Alabama trying to get him in for an official this weekend. Not sure if a decision has 100% been made just yet. I think he's still kind of weighing the options. He's going to take an official to Georgia next weekend, and then the weekend before signing day, he's going to visit Florida. There's 2 or 3 schools that are trying to get him in this weekend for that official visit, and just kind of see where things go. But as of right now, wouldn't put really much stock into him flipping to Alabama. Will he potentially flip? I think there's a chance that happens, but until Alabama can get him on campus for an official visit, spend some time with him, and then kind of decide, if they're going to go all in and really make a push for him, then we just don't know what he's going to end up doing.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about February. The first Wednesday in February is right around the corner. I would say 85, 90%, or 80% anyway, probably this class is complete based on what happened in December. But Alabama's still looking to sign a few players. How many spots are available, Bone? And how do you think this class is gonna fill out? You mentioned Javon Baker already, a couple of other guys that are committed that have not signed, and maybe one that has signed that's not been announced. How do you see this class finishing out in February?
Well, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of fireworks between now and the first Wednesday in February, but Alabama certainly, I think would like to add, at least 1 or 2 more guys who are not committed. Just try to keep the guys who are committed on board. Javon Baker, Jamil Burrows. I think you got to make sure that those guys are on the right track academically, and they can get things taken care of in the classroom, and you sign those guys. So, there's some other guys that are going to be coming in this month. And, if you look at Enos Rakestraw, who's a kind of a fast-rising defensive back out of the state of Texas, who has set up an official visit to Alabama for next weekend. That's certainly a guy that I think that if Alabama wants him, if Alabama pushes for him, I think that they can get him. Obviously, I mentioned Cedric Van Pran potentially coming in for an official. An official has not been set yet for Brandon Frazier, the tight end out of Texas that we've talked about. A lot of people kind of have assumed, because Alabama didn't get a tight end, commitment from Eric Gilbert or Darnell Washington, that this is going to be the answer. Well, that's not necessarily the case. I think Alabama is still trying to, get him on campus for an official visit. He's visiting, I believe he's visiting Auburn this weekend. He's going to visit Arkansas next weekend. So then, does he decide to take an official visit that final weekend before signing day? And if he does, it will probably be to Alabama. So they're going to have, if he does come in for an official, Alabama will have to make a decision. Do they really push hard for him? They are definitely recruiting him, but definitely got to make a decision if they're going to push hard for him. And obviously, we've talked about some of these defensive linemen that are still out there. McKinley Jackson, probably the number one target. Probably the number one target overall. The Rivals 100 defensive tackle out of George County High School in Mississippi. Got some, going to take some visits this month. LSU, I believe Texas A&M. There's some other schools that are still strongly in the mix for him, including Mississippi State. He talked about maybe going to Georgia, but I don't think he's going to have enough time to be able to do that. And he's talked about maybe coming back over to Tuscaloosa for an unofficial visit this month. I talked to Alfred Collins, a four-star defensive lineman also from Texas, who has already taken an official visit to Alabama, but he is considering a return unofficial visit sometime this month. And so we'll see if he makes it back in. If he doesn't make it back in, I think he'll probably stay a little bit closer to home. Oklahoma's kind of been the trendy pick for him lately. So if he doesn't make it back to Tuscaloosa, I think he'll end up going there. But if he makes it back over, you never know if Alabama could pull that one off.
Bone, obviously haven't even completed the 2020 class yet, but focus is already heavily on 2021. Alabama's got 3 commitments for the 2021 class. I want you to kind of touch on these guys. Let's start with the quarterback, because it's obvious you want to sign a quarterback every year. And Drake May out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Brother was a terrific basketball player. Luke May at North Carolina. His dad, played at North Carolina, so heavy UNC ties. But he committed to Alabama. Now, with quarterbacks, you're always concerned about, hanging on to them. We've seen, quarterbacks flip and you wind up signing a guy who's maybe not even on your radar. Tell us about Drake May, and then secondly, how firm is this commitment with Alabama, and how firm is Alabama with him?
Well, Drake May, came to Tuscaloosa during the summer and earned a scholarship offer from Alabama, and they really pressed hard for him. I mean, he was one of the top overall players at the camp during the summer, and then I believe it was in July when he committed, and he's been pretty solid, throughout. I mean, he hasn't really taken any other visits elsewhere. Every time I've spoken with him, he says his commitment is very solid, regardless of Bryce Young, signing with Alabama. Now, is there a situation where, Bryce Young potentially comes in, wins the starting quarterback position, as a starter, as a true freshman, does he start to look elsewhere? Now, maybe the case. We don't know yet. He says he's solid. I think Alabama believes he's solid. Had a great junior season. I think he only threw one interception his entire junior season, and 50-something touchdowns. So tremendous season for Drake May, and I think Alabama's biggest thing is getting him back on campus for another visit, spending time with the coaching staff, and just continuing to build onto that relationship.
Andrew Bone with a senior recruiting analyst for BamaInsider.com, part of the Rivals.com network, the Bama Football Recruiting Report. A couple more commitments in that 2020 class. Latrell McCutcheon out of LBJ High School in Austin, Texas, defensive back, cornerback, a highly touted prospect, committed early. Now, we know when you're in the state of Texas and you're a good player, you got everybody coming after you. But McCutcheon, at least on the surface, seems like he put a lot of thought into this and that he understands exactly what he's doing by committing early, and seems solid to Alabama to me.
Alabama's recruited the state of Texas extremely well throughout the last several years. They've got some great defensive backs from Texas, and I think that as of right now, he's pretty solid. He tore his ACL during his junior season, so that that kind of set him back a little bit. He's a top 100 type guy. A lot of people think he's he could be a 5-star, but I think that with him tearing his ACL, that kind of hurt him a little bit in terms of getting that lofty ranking right now. But he's rehabbing. He's trying to get back stronger, and he made it back to a couple games in Tuscaloosa this fall. And as of right now, still very solid with Alabama. Now, new offers are starting to come in. I think he tweeted the other day about an offer from Oklahoma. Got an offer from Georgia a few weeks ago. Now we may see him take some visits, enjoy the recruiting process a little bit. But as of right now, I think he's a very solid Alabama commitment.
The third commitment in the class of 2021, an in-state guy. Of course, Alabama's had a great in-state recruiting haul in this 2020 class. Deontay Lawson out of Mobile Christian. That's Ronnie Cottrell's school, the former Alabama recruiting coordinator. Rangy, outside pass rushing type guy that's going to put on some more weight. Terrific athlete. Tell us about Deontay Lawson, Bone.
Yeah, Deontay's a 6'3", 215-pound linebacker that can really do it all. I mean, you put him just about anywhere on the field, and he can do a lot of great things. He can play inside or outside. I think a lot's just going to depend on kind of where he fits in once he gets on campus, and Alabama kind of moves him around, sees what they like the most. But like I said, I think he can play inside or outside. Had a great junior season, led Mobile Christian to the state championship. Now they didn't win it, but he was a big reason for them getting there. I spoke to Coach Cottrell the other day. He had nothing but great things to say about Deontay. Just his character on and off the field, big time leader for them, and definitely somebody that he thinks is going to be a big time player at the college level. Now he made the comparison to Derek Brooks. Coach Cottrell coached Derek Brooks at Florida State, linebacker. A lot of people remember that name. I mean, he was selected to the Pro Bowl 11 times. I mean, he was a 9-time All-Pro selection. So that's definitely some lofty praise there. But he said that just from his character and the way that he kind of approaches things and his philosophy and film study, that he sees a lot of Derek Brooks in Deontay Lawson.
We're visiting with Andrew Bone, senior recruiting analyst for BamaInsider, part of the Rivals.com network, talking about the class of 2021. He just recapped the 3 commitments for that class. We just saw, again, that most of the 2020 class was signed in December. Only 3 commitments for 2021 now. How busy do you think the spring will be in terms of offers, in terms of commitments? And do you expect, once again, for the majority of this upcoming class to be in place and signed again in December?
I think what we saw kind of during the fall and what we're probably going to see this month is we're going to see a lot of junior offers go out. And, a lot of those offers are, basically we want you to come on campus first. We want to evaluate you in person. We want to talk to you. We want to spend time with you. We just want to get you here. And so that's kind of what those offers are all about during the spring. Alabama's going to have their first junior day, I believe, on February the 1st. So that's going to be a big event in terms of just getting some key targets. I think it's an invite-only event, so they'll definitely be very selective as to who they bring in for that weekend. The coaches will be, like I said, they're going to be on the road this month. I think the contact period begins on January the 17th, so that's this Friday. Obviously, they're going to have official visits on campus this weekend, but next week and the next couple weeks, even though they will be seeing a few 2020 guys, the majority of guys they will be going out and seeing and going to their high schools and speaking to their coaches are going to be a lot of juniors.
Bone, I want to ask you about obviously there's been really no slipping in terms of the recruiting classes for Alabama. Number 2 ranked right now, or generally in the top 3 in just about every service. But a lot of talk about Nick Saban now being 68. He'll turn 69 this year. Is the end near that's being used against Alabama in recruiting? I know that. When you talk to these prospects, what's your impression in regards to their view of Alabama, and if, they sign, they feel like Nick Saban will be there for their entire career? What's Alabama's message to those guys? As you know, every year that passes now, that's going to be used against Alabama in recruiting. What's the feeling of these high school prospects on Nick Saban and him being the head coach for their entire time in Tuscaloosa?
We don't really hear that too often in terms of recruits talking about it. I think the biggest thing recruits talk about is wondering if a position coach or a coordinator is going to be at Alabama, as we've seen. So many of those guys have moved on through the years, and definitely over the course of the last couple of years, we've seen such a humongous coaching turnover. You don't hear about recruits talking about Nick Saban's age or how long he's going to be there. Now, our other coaches maybe putting that in their ear. I would assume so, but most of them just kind of talk about other coaches leaving and how long some of these guys are going to be there. So that's really the biggest thing. But I think the way that they're recruiting, the way that they're continuing to get top recruits, it doesn't seem like it's phasing these guys too much.
Great stuff as always from Bone, and giving us the latest on Alabama football recruiting. Bone, I know you're out on Bama Insider every day with updates and, of course, active on social media. Just fill the listeners in on how they can keep up with all the great information you provide. Yeah,
you can obviously follow us on BamaInsider.com, which is part of the Rivals.com network. We've got a great community over there. A great team of guys that are covering Alabama football and basketball, along with the recruiting. So please join our community over there, or you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew J. Bode. You can also follow our Bama Insider YouTube channel. And I think that's about it. There may be some other avenues where you can follow us, but that's all I know off the top of my head.
Yeah, and of course, every Wednesday right here on the Gary Harris Show, and I know you're a regular on the Jay Barker Show as well. Good to catch up, Bone. Appreciate the knowledge.
All right, Gary. Thank you.